Hello, everybody. Hope that you've all been having a great week. My week's been all right so far. Not the best, not the worst, but it's been going. So, as I've said, I will not be here next week. I'll probably still be posting videos, but they'll be like vlogs or something like this. But I'm going back to Ontario to see my family. So, that should be interesting. Anyways, I've been putting off streaming for a while just to let some stuff build up, and there's been quite a few things going on in the news. As always, it's kind of Schrodinger's news. A bunch of stuff is happening and a bunch of stuff is not happening. Generally speaking, at the exact same time. So yeah, that's whereabouts we are at the moment. Let me see here. I guess kind of firstly, if people haven't seen, Mearsheimer went on Tucker Carlson, and we got an anime crossover between the two of them. Let me just go here. Let's see how many views it's up to now. YouTube, Tucker Carlson. Curious to see how this is doing compared to the other ones. Okay, it's not doing bad. So yeah, John Mearsheimer went on Tucker Carlson. I'd recommend watching it. It's a good interview. Well, it's Mearsheimer's good. Tucker Carlson, I have come to the conclusion. I don't watch his show very often. I only watch. I only really watch him if he has on someone I'm interested in. I actually find like Tucker Carlson to be a really bad interviewer. Something that I find about the something I find out regarding the just his interviews is I feel like he does no prep. And I'm curious to see if other people feel the same way. I feel like he does zero prep for his interviews. He doesn't look at the topic. He doesn't even like take a cursory glance. Because he always just seems like completely like clueless, like a fish out of water. Whenever any of these things wind up happening, yeah, he just looks like he has no like has like the questioning Tucker face, and yeah, pretty much nothing winds up going on. But like I generally think that, and the Mearsheimer interview is a lot like that. You can argue he's trying to be a voice of the audience or something, but I think he could do that in a more intelligent way. Like he can just say for our audience who might not be aware of. I don't know. I don't think he was very good in this interview. I thought, and I said this at the time. I thought the Putin interview was terrible, and I will stand by that opinion. I just don't think it was very good. Like there was a lot of things, and I say this as someone who's generally likes Putin. Something that sorry. But it just kind of went nowhere. They just let Putin ramble on for like 2 hours. Like there's a lot of questions. Like I was thinking about it today a bit. A question I would have liked to have asked Putin is, okay, well you say this isn't an imperialistic war. You're saying this isn't a land grab. Why did you annex the additional 4 regions? Like I think that would have been an interesting question. There were so many interesting questions, and from my understanding, Putin doesn't really run away. He would have answered them. But like Tucker showed up and he seemed to have basically no idea like what was even going on. Anyways, I'll stop hating on Tucker Carlson. It's a good video. I'd watch it. One thing I will say for him is he does let people talk. He does let Mearsheimer go through everything, so it's good. We have a little bit of cringe at some parts of it. You know what I think Mearsheimer is, and I was thinking of this today. You know, whenever like there's an AI that is not, whenever there's an AI that what is it again? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. that is unshackled. That is, it doesn't have like absurd restraints on it in terms of political correctness. It immediately just becomes, for lack of a better term, based, and it starts noticing things, and it starts looking at statistics, and it starts going through articles, and it reaches certain conclusions purely by empirical matters. Um, yeah. Um, Mearsheimer is kind of like that. He's kind of just by looking at it semi-objectively stumbled into the Israel lobby, and he kind of gets where they're going with that. It's not quite all the way, but he, when you hear him talk about it, he goes pretty far. He goes pretty far. So that's interesting. Okay, but enough about that. So let's take a look at what's been going on in the war. So let's go to live UA. So the Ukraine cinematic universe had been having a rough call. We got like the Kursk offensive. It made decent money at the box office. Ultimately, though, the production budget was so high it didn't really matter. It lost a lot of money. Lost a whole bunch of money. Many people died. It was kind of a mess. So that had happened. But it looks like that we have a hit. The Russian summer offensive has begun, although it's a very kind of different offensive from the one we saw with the Ukrainians. It's not really a big aero offensive per se, but it's, if we just kind of look at this, they are pushing across basically the entire front line, more or less attacking everywhere. I think they've realized, or well, not realized, but I think their strategy of attrition has been paying off, and the Ukrainians just don't have enough men to cover a lot of the lines. I was watching some videos about it, and they were saying that it's not uncommon now for the Russians to come across fortified positions that are just empty. That they will come up to a fortified position, they'll send a couple guys to take a look in, there'll be no one there, and then they can just take it, and they've been creeping forward like that. Let's see here. Where are we? Sorry, I have to stop looking at the chat. Yeah, so they're just pushing all along the front, and the Ukrainians are not able to get together enough forces in really any particular area. The other problem is that there's really not many moves that they have left that they can do. Okay, so let me see here. Where are we? The main battles. Toretsk? Is it Toretsk? Was one of the things. I understand the overall situation. I'm not the best when it comes to the individual cities. So we have Chasiv Yar, which seems to have been going on basically forever. Like it seems like Russia's almost captured Chasiv Yar for a prolonged period of time. It just kind of keeps going. We have, what else do we have here? Where is Prokhorovsk? This is show prep. Oh yeah, Prokhorovsk. I can't. I can't really pronounce it, but yeah, as you can see, we're basically nearing operational encirclement. The only highway left, to my understanding, is the M30, and the Russians have complete fire control on it. I've heard that within Pokrovsk itself, they can't get significant supplies in anymore. It's basically, I think they can slip some reinforcements in, but by and large, whatever they have there is what they have. And the longer the fighting goes on there, the more lower and lower they will have on the more and more desperate things will get there. But I don't think they can really withdraw, because where are they going to withdraw to at this point in time? They've gotten through most of these places. I think Prokhorovsk, what's left of Chasiv Yar and Toretsk, and one or two other places are like the last fortified cities. The Ukrainians had built this network of fortified cities in Donbass, which is where most of the fighting in this war has been happening. And it's just kind of taken Russia a long time to get through it. You had Bakhmut, you had Avdiivka, you've had a lot of different places wherein the Ukrainians just completely dug in, and they've had to slowly make their way through these cities. Once, though, I don't know if there's really that much between them and the Dnieper at this point in time. Once the last couple of cities are taken. Now, my other understanding is Russia has at least 2 full reserve armies that are just kind of waiting. Now, where they're going to actually use those, if they're going to use them, I'm not entirely sure. But that's about he said that Chasiv Yar is finally 100% Russian this morning. I've heard that a number of times. So maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But yeah, it's just pressing all along. So the situation is pretty bad. It's getting worse by the day. Part of the issue is Trump is now doing what Trump tends to do, where he's doing his, like, I don't know if he thinks it's 4D chess. I don't know if he thinks he's a genius or something. I think Mearsheimer said Trump has a god complex or something when he was asked about this, but he's doubled down on Ukraine without actually doubling down on it. It's like this weird half measure where he keeps rhetorically supporting Ukraine and saying that, like, they're on Ukraine's side in this war, but at the same time, it's not like they're providing additional resources. It's not like there's another funding package coming. It's not like they're actually trying to do anything that would significantly help Ukraine. So Trump has basically taken ownership of this war. He's made it his war. He's decided that he's going to be the one who he's going to solve it. He's going to do his peace deal. He's going to do the art of the deal. This whole thing's going to happen. He could have, and you can say what you want about it, whether this was politically possible. At the start of the when he came to power, he could have just said, look, this is Biden's war. This wouldn't have happened if I was president. This whole thing is just a massive disaster. We've done everything we can. We've given it the old college try, and then just, like, pulled out. And just said if the Europeans want to keep doing it, they can keep doing it. But once again, he decided to take ownership of it, but he took ownership of it in a way that isn't really helping Ukraine actually resisting it. And we've had a lot of just kind of, I don't know, like, people in the chat, do you think Trump has, like, developed dementia, or is it just, like, True Social has allowed him to be crazier than he used to be? Because he's just been completely unhinged for, like, the last couple months. Like, the State Department or Vance or Hegseth or whoever will make a statement. Trump will go on, like, the next day and immediately contradict it. He will contradict himself within, like, a couple of hours of people of each other. It's gotten, like, just completely nuts. Like, we'll take a look at some of the tariff tantrums. The tariff tantrums, it's like on an hourly basis now. He's basically just going back and forth. And it's just okay. So we'll get into Trump a bit more in a minute. So Russia's pushing. Zelensky shut down these two anti-corruption agencies. Now, the interesting thing is, what is it again? So Zelensky and his government, the government that preceded him, came to power because of U.S. aid and color revolution and all the kind of like American, Western, liberal interference with Ukraine's internal politics. And part of that was setting up these anti-corruption agencies, which for whatever reason, Zelensky doesn't want to deal with them anymore. So they were previously independent, but they've basically been nationalized, and they are going to be put under his direct control. So the only semi-independent form of anti-corruption will be completely dismantled, although it's not like it's really doing much at the moment. But sorry, I completely lost my train of thought there. What was I saying? I completely lost my train of thought there. Oh yeah, Zelensky. Yeah, Zelensky. Yeah, so now he is falling prey to the same forces who brought him to power. Because he's shutting down these anti-corruption agencies, we have the EU is apparently suspending payments to him. We have the same people, the usual suspects, the upper middle class, the cosmopolitans, the students, all the people that they always send to overthrow governments are now out in the streets. Now, do I think this is going to overthrow Zelensky? No. It's to the best of my knowledge, it's not that widespread, but he pissed off the people who actually matter. It's not like he pissed off the average Ukrainians or by drafting them and not resolving the war or refusing to pay them or their salaries or whatever. He pissed off the people who have the ear of the Western powers, which is not a good place to be. Zelensky needs two groups of people to support him, or at least tolerate him: the ultra-nationalists and the West. And it's kind of difficult sometimes to balance the two. So I don't think Zelensky is necessarily going to be overthrown by any kind of public uprising. I think he's too secure in his power for this. There really isn't any significant elite. As I've said, there's no like pro-peace faction within the elite. There's the pro-war faction, the dissident pro-war faction, and the ultra-nationalists. And there's nobody who wants to see kind of a negotiated settlement at this point in time. So I don't see really him being overthrown in the near future. I guess the only way I could really see it is if the West just decides to do a regime change. It is really the only way at this point. I don't think within Ukrainian society there is really the ability to overthrow him. I could be completely wrong about this. Maybe he'll get removed tomorrow morning or something like that, but I just don't see it. This is, however, I think the only major protest that's happened under Zelensky's administration as president. I can't really recall many other ones happening at this point in time priorly. We had a couple like isolated draft riots, but not anything like on a countrywide scale. Now, once again, there's not that many people out in the streets, but the people who are out in the streets are the people who he can't afford to be in the streets. Restored independence to the anti-corruption bodies. Is that where we are now? Okay, maybe this happened when I was at work today. Okay, I'm going to have to look into that because I don't know if that's actually the case or not. Or that was because it's you always have to be very careful with this because first it was going to be under the prosecutor general's control, then it was going to be under Zelensky's control. Now it's going to be completely autonomous, and it just kind of goes back and forth. So I'm just going to go through the comments now. Let's see here. The Epstein case is getting to Trump. Yeah, I would agree with that. We'll talk about Epstein in a minute. Akira Joker points out one day it's 50 days, then 100 days. And keep in mind it was one day. Remember when Trump said that he would resolve the Russo-Ukraine war within 24 hours of becoming president? Remember when he said he would resolve it before he became president? And all these other, like, just things like he does. Like, I get it where... I get it. Like, we've become, like, I don't know if it's jaded or accepting of the fact that Trump just chronically lies about basically everything. That, like, most of what he says is just stuff that he's, like, made up or pulled out of his ass, and it doesn't really reflect any kind of reality. But I don't know if that's really a good place to be. Where we go, okay, he said he'd resolve it the day he became president. Well, we can't take that seriously. We can't take the week seriously, or the month, or the 100 days, or whatever seriously. I just don't know if that's a good place to be when you can't trust your leader at all. And with some of the tariff stuff we're getting, it's crazy. We'll get to it though in a second. Let's see, what else do we have? Constantine says, in my opinion, Trump is under extreme pressure due to term limits and age, and he wants to try to do everything before leaving. That's possible. M. Smell Smith says, it's annoying that the Russians seemed shockingly reasonable during the initial negotiations, and that was squandered. Osaka says he got his second term. He doesn't need to keep up the grift as much anymore. That's true. Akira points out that Trump is not even really is using tariffs as a sanctions weapon at this point in time. It's not even being used as a what's it called? An economic tool anymore. We'll get into that in a second because the tariff thing's a separate issue. But yeah, like there's going to be tariffs against Canada because they like criticized Israel's treatment of it. Funnily enough, Zelensky's election was a protest to the Maidan in a way, but he tripled down. Yeah, Constantine, didn't he run as like candidate who wanted peace with Russia? Like, didn't he run as like the reconciliation candidate, like as the moderate who was not the ultranationalist? Yeah, it's true. Later Gator says most of the ultranationalists have died off. Azov is global homo now. Let's see here. Azov went to Israel and said, Mariupol is our Musada. I don't really think that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, Musada, regardless of how you feel about Israel, the death before surrender is a very powerful symbol. I don't really have that much of an issue to that. Let's see here. He caved, but... okay, but some stuff happened with it. Okay, so take it with appropriate salt. I'm just seeing here. Here's what I think. And we can agree or disagree on this one. I think by and large Trump's domestic policy has been pretty good. I think that there's been some goofy stuff there, but by and large, a lot of the things that people wanted to get done are getting done. Or at least they're trying to get done. There's progress at least attempting to be made. Most of the executive orders were good. Some of the legislation, like I went through the big, beautiful bill, it's mostly pretty solid. ICE is going to try to ramp up the deportations. I think a lot of the domestic stuff has been pretty good. I think the foreign policy stuff has been a disaster on many levels. And I don't even just say this as like whatever you want to say. I'm like pro Russia or third worldist or something. Just a lot of it is really really kind of dumb. So Trump is currently let's start off with Ursula von der Leyen and the trade deal. Let's see here. Ursula von der Leyen, Trump. So, Ursula. So I don't know. The EU has this weird like tsundere relationship with Trump, because you had like Mark Rutte calling him daddy, and like they alternate between hating on him and just sycophantically like sucking him off. And it kind of goes back and forth with it. I think it's because they hate him personally and what he stands for, but they realize that without America's security guarantee, they're fucked. So we get into this really weird scenario. So this whole tariff thing, I maintain, is a disaster. I guess they're getting deals now, but it's so poorly done. Like, I think you have to have, like, I don't know if style's the right term, but you have to at least project that you have some idea what you were doing. And we had just this random collection of tariffs that Trump just kind of threw out there. Yeah, they just kind of threw it out there and stuff like that. And then a lot of them got canceled. A lot of them got canceled. A lot of them got delayed. I don't even know what's going on with the Canadian-American one. It keeps getting renegotiated and delayed and then not delayed and then increased and then decreased. It's just this stuff that constantly happens. So what I think should have happened, and I've said this since the beginning, I think what Trump should have done is done a 10% tariff. I think that should have just been it. A blanket 10% tariff, I think, would have made sense. That raises a little money. It protects domestic producers a little bit. And higher tariffs on strategic goods like steel or whatever other industries America is trying to deal with. So that is what I think. Maybe 10% is too low. Maybe it's too high. That's just, I think if he had have tried to get some like reasonable long-term rate that would help out domestic industry a bit without causing massive price spikes, I think that would have been probably a good idea. Instead, I don't even really know what's going on anymore. So yeah, 10% on everyone. Just a flat 10% across the board. Because was it zero before? A blanket tariff was a bad idea? Okay, well, maybe. I don't know. That was just what I was thinking. Okay, so Trump has declared economic war on Europe because, I mean, of all the things you could get mad at Europe over, I don't really, I guess, taking advantage of it economically. No, Constantine, what I said is I thought I was saying that like a reasonable across the board tariff and then targeted ones that would be higher than it is what I thought. So like maybe steel is like 30-40%. I don't know. I'm not an economist. Let's see here. So Trump has been saying like Europe's been robbing us blind. Here's another thing that Trump does. Is he makes up like this story about these trade deficits that America doesn't have. Like I think America has a trade surplus with Brazil, but the narrative is like that Brazil's stealing money from them or something like that. And like just in a lot of the case, if you start going through the cases where he complains that countries are stealing from them, the U.S. will be in a trade surplus with them. So I don't even know. Anyways, so Ursula decided to come out with a the like if there's an art of the deal, this was like one of the worst deals I've ever seen. So the blanket tariff, the end deal, I think it is that there will be a 15% tariff on American goods. Sorry, on European goods entering America. There will be no tariff on American goods entering Europe. And I think there was a bunch of other like stuff that was thrown into this. Let's see here. Okay, so tariffs on steel and aluminum will remain at 50%. So that's staying in place. The EU also promised, and this is like one of the more bizarre things, they will buy like $750 billion in U.S. oil and LNG. Now, maybe someone who knows a bit more about this, does the U.S. have $750 billion in oil to sell to Europe? Like, does the U.S. have that much extra oil that it can afford to ship that much across the ocean to Europe? Does the U.S. produce enough oil that it can replace Russia as the main oil and gas provider to Europe? I didn't think it did. Like, I thought that the U.S. was about at self-sufficient levels. I didn't think it had, like, all of this stuff. And this also happened with South Korea. And once again, as far as I can determine, these numbers are just made up. Like, it's just an arbitrary number that Trump thought sounded good. Yeah, so Later Gator is pointing it out. This is something that I've seen with regards to... they've been talking about this on the Duran and stuff, that the shale revolution has kind of peaked and that it's going to maybe stay stable or gradually decline at this point in time. Trump's plan is just to let them drill more holes in the ground, and somehow that will resolve it. So I don't know. Like, Europe is gonna buy this money. Buy this natural gas because it's better to, like, once again, let's just think about this for a minute. There are functional pipelines that can bring natural gas into Europe from Russia. But they cut that off, and the plan is we're going to import the natural gas across the Atlantic Ocean rather than buy it from Russia. That's the plan. That's the genius plan. Let's see here. Similarly, the U.S. says the EU will invest $600 billion by the end of Trump's second term. What that means, I don't know. EU states simply that companies have expressed interest in investing that sum by 2029. What that means, I don't know. It's some point in time in the next 4 years, there will be $600 billion of something that will be invested in it. So I don't really get it. Now, something though that I do think that this will help the U.S. because the European economy is just like crashing. It's in kind of a free fall, and all of this additional stuff that they've thrown in. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there momentarily. Because of energy prices in Europe, a lot of companies, and I've heard this more and more, also with the big, beautiful bill and some of the state legislation, a lot of companies are thinking about moving to the U.S. Particularly a lot of German companies want to move there because it's much more business friendly. They can get past American tariffs, and they can take advantage of the much cheaper energy. So this will probably help with that, at least in the short term. Let's see here. So we have a whole bunch of other stuff. So basically, The EU, as far as I can determine, got nothing out of this. There's no EU tariffs on American goods. America gets to put a tariff on EU goods. And Europe agreed to give like the U.S. basically over $1 trillion. Is where we're at this point in time. Let's see here. TK says for $10, thank you. Not justifying anything Trump does, says, but the dollar is broken, so international trade is broken. Also, German natural gas is around 4 to 6 times the price of U.S. natural gas, so it's super profitable for the U.S. Yeah. I saw like an article, and I think I covered this. Apparently, oil and natural gas are at par in Germany, or at least they are. They're at par, like back in the winter, where it was this heating with oil was the same cost as heating with natural gas, which is insane to me. Maybe that's just because I come from Canada and we don't use heating oil really here. Maybe we do. I've never been any place that uses heating oil. It's always natural gas or electric heating. So, let's see here. And then they're going to give more money to the American military-industrial complex. So that's all good. So they just got completely robbed. A lot of European leaders are like, this was the worst deal possible, but this ensures that America will stay in Europe for the foreseeable future. Let's see here. Okay, so we got that. Let's go on to Korea. We have another nonsense deal, which probably isn't going to happen. So let's see here. My understanding is there will be a 15% tariff on South Korean goods. I think South Korea has, South Korea will have 0% tariffs on American goods. And South Korea will purchase $1 billion in energy. Because that's just the way it is. I guess. Now, someone could maybe because once again, I'm kind of ignorant of these things. I don't know. Is it really that? Is it a fish? Like, it seems like South Korea is a long way from the U.S. Are super tankers efficient enough to make it worthwhile to ship oil and gas from the United States to South Korea? It just seems like a really long distance. But once again, I could be I could be wrong about that. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Does the U.S. Let's look this up. U.S. energy industry size. Okay, so electricity. Okay, let's just see if we can find how much the U.S. produces in oil per year. So let's see here. Okay, petroleum, and I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find this. I'm trying to see like how much, like they theoretically could even export. You know what? Let me just fire up on my other browser, ChatGPT, and see if it can do this. How much does the U.S. produce yearly? Okay, let me just look this up. Okay. Okay, so the numbers that I looked up is, and once again, this is ChatGPT, so take this with a massive salt mine. It says the U.S. produces $315 billion worth of oil a year and 128 million a billion dollars of natural gas. So we'll just round that up to 500 billion, which is generous. So how is Europe gonna? What was it? Europe was gonna buy like 650 billion. It's like they're gonna buy more than what the U.S. produces in a year. So would the U.S. just sell all of its oil to Europe and or like 20-30% of their oil to Europe over that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It makes absolutely no sense. I don't even know how that's physically possible. Um, so yeah, I don't get it. I don't really get it. Okay, super tankers are actually efficient. Okay, that's true. Over what time period? I think that's yearly. I think it's about $500 billion yearly. Is what I looked up. If someone else wants to look it up, they can let me know what it is. But that is my what I was found. U.S. production in dollars. Okay, no, actually, yeah, no, it okay. That's I think it is about. We'll just go with that. Europe doesn't have any proper LNG terminals. Whole point of the deal was to pay 15%, not 35%. Yeah, but Trump can just make up whatever numbers he wants. So, yeah, so Europe got fucked over. South Korea got fucked over. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like really like overly kind hearted, or maybe I'm just like a pussy or something. I don't really like it when America fucks over its allies and then the MAGA crowd is like, yeah, take that, Europe. We're going to make you poor. And they think it's like some amazing thing that America bullied Europe into taking a shit deal. I don't know. I just don't like that. I just think it's bad optics. I think I just think it's a dick move. And I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's worth it. Generally speaking, to do this, I don't think it's worth it to screw over your partners in this way to get a short-term advantage when this is going to cause a lot of long-term damage to the relationship. I think it's better to try to come up with a mutually beneficial long-term agreement that will enable not as much money but more kind of long-term trade. I don't really like it, to be honest. Constantine says, I want Europe, Japan, South Korea, etc. to be independent powers. Yeah, like, I'm not an isolationist. I think it's a good thing that the U.S. has allies and friends throughout the world. But, like, the U.S. is bankrupt. Do they really have the money to be, like, make all of these countries into dependencies? Um, I'm happy, like, the U.S. should be trading with Korea. That's not an issue, but is it worth the amount of resentment and the long term problems it will cause for Trump to get a temporary win? Now, for Trump, yes, this is 100% worth it under any circumstances to get a W, but he's out to lunch. So then we have the case of India. So India is quickly becoming something of a clusterfuck. Just its entire position in the world, particularly with regards to Trump. Now, if I recall, didn't Trump and Modi used to get along really well? Like, weren't they buddies? I seem to remember even a couple months back, Modi came to America. They were chummy. Trump pulled out Modi's chair for him. Uh, I thought they were they were friends. They were on good terms. They're both theoretically nationalists. Um, that they were going to have a business together. This idea that they were going to increase trade, they were going to do all that kind of stuff, and none of that wound up happening. There's not a ton of trade between them. Trump has decided that India is stealing from the United States. Let's look at this. U.S. trade balances. Let's see balance of trade. Let's see what. Let's take a look at India. Remember, guys, America is not running a trade surplus with any country. Let me see what's India at. Okay, $40 billion. Okay, so that's something. It's not a lot. It's about the same as what they're doing with Thailand or Malaysia. But yeah, so his complaint is that India is stealing from them. India has very heavy protectionist policies on agricultural goods, because a lot of India is still rural. So Trump has said, like, look, India is not allowed to have any tariffs or protectionist policies on any of its goods. They have to completely open up their market. We're going to put a tariff on their goods. They aren't allowed to put a tariff on our goods. And that's just kind of where we are at the moment. Trump continues to insist that he was the one who stopped the conflict a couple months back, that he personally intervened and negotiated a peace agreement between India and Pakistan. India claims that that's complete bullshit and that never happened. Trump desperately wants a W and wants the Nobel Peace Prize, so he's going to keep saying that even if it's not really true. So the thing is with India, and this is, people are talking about India's impact on my country. We can talk about that in a minute. But India's foreign policy, by and large, is to just kind of be a neutral, unaligned country that has good relations with everyone. At least that's, other than Pakistan and maybe China. India wanted to do business with Russia. They wanted to do business with the West. They wanted to do business with the unaligned countries. They don't really have to my understanding at least, a geopolitical project in the same way that America or even Russia or China do. They were just kind of happy to do business with different people. And that's somehow been ruined. And now India is mad at Trump. And any talk of them increasing trade is kind of going down the drain. And they're probably not, they might or may not come to any kind of agreement over tariffs. I don't know. So that's a disaster. I don't know where the China stuff is going. It seems like on a daily basis it goes back and forth. Like some days they're about to come up with a deal, some days they're not about to. It's just kind of very chaotic. So we have that stuff. America is threatening Canada now. Okay, what is this? So Canada recognized Palestine, or is going to, and Trump has announced that he is going to, revoke the deal with Canada or do something to force Canada to not recognize Palestine. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So basically Trump's kind of picked a fight with just about everybody. They had the 50-day, let's see here, Trump. Trump 10 days to flatten the curve. So Trump gave Putin a 50-day deadline. Putin politely told him to go fuck himself. Trump said, well, Russia's an evil country because they're not doing what I told them to do. So we're going to shorten it to 10 days. And if Russia doesn't come to a peace agreement in 10 days, we're going to put sanctions on Russia. Like, does the U.S. even trade with Russia? No, it doesn't. It really barely trades with Russia. It trades with Finland more than it trades with Russia. So they're going to like put 100% tariff on the goods that they don't import from Russia. That's the plan. And most of the stuff that they import from Russia is stuff that they actually need, like fertilizer and nuclear materials and stuff like that. So it's actually not going to hurt Russia. It's probably going to hurt them more. But that's okay. So we're going to put tariffs on Russia that already exist. And this is the big, like, you're going to have to do that. So then the other idea that we have is the secondary sanctions. So secondary sanctions, or the bone-crushing sanctions, is what we're going to do is any country that buys Russian oil, we're going to put, like, I think it's a 50 to 100% tariff on it. So that's going to be like India, China. I don't know if that includes Turkey or not. I don't know if that includes European countries that buy Russian oil and gas. But they're going to put massive tariffs on all of these countries unless they agree to break off economic relations with Russia and to stop buying their oil. Now, both the Chinese and the Indians have told Trump to go fuck himself. China has been very consistent throughout this whole thing that it's really none of Trump's business. Their relationship between Russia and themselves. Is where they are. The sanctions, and India has also told him to go fuck himself. So none of these countries are going to actually comply with this, and so he's basically like, the goal is we're going to cut off. To cut off trade with those countries. That's the plan. We're going to cut off trade with China. We're going to cut off trade with India. And that's going to do something that's somehow going to help us to... I don't know. I don't really know. That's the plan. Because the U.S. economy is so like important that these countries will just completely surrender basically overnight. I guess is the is where we're at the moment. So we're with the secondary sanctions, which are going to be a mess. And once again, I don't really get what like his goal is. Like okay, so maybe to finish all this off, let's just talk about negotiations. So this is something that irritates me because I care about reality. So we've talked about this in the past. So Russia's demands have stayed pretty consistent throughout the war, and they will reiterate what their demands are if anybody asks them. That they will go forward and they will explain what they are. They have stayed largely the same. The only real difference is the amount of territorial concessions that they want Ukraine to make has gone from just Crimea and autonomy for Donbass to being the 4 regions as well. But I mean, Russia's objectives in this war have been pretty consistent. Putin offered what his terms were last year. Last year during his speech to the foreign ministry. I'm not going to go through them all again, but he specifically stated what his demands were, what he would be willing to accept. And there is this like thing in the West where they will not take Russia seriously. So it doesn't seem to matter how often Putin states what his demands are. It doesn't seem to matter how often he says that he's open for negotiation. It's just ignored. Keep in mind, Russia, say what you will, has never said that they are not willing to negotiate. They've been open to negotiation since before the war. And basically throughout the entire war, they've said that they are willing to sit down without preconditions and talk. Now, does that mean that they'll get much out of it? That they'll can get much of a compromise? Probably not. But when they say that, like, Russia is unwilling to negotiate, like, you see this cringe, like, we have to bring Putin to the negotiating table. He's not going to come to the negotiating table. Russia has always been willing to come to the negotiating table. That's been something that's been very consistent over the last couple of over the entirety of it, but you still have people saying it. And the reason is negotiating table is code word for unconditional surrender. So like the Zelensky, the precondition for talks is for Russia to withdraw from all of Ukraine, and then the talks will be about how much war reparations and how many Russia will pay and how long Putin will be in jail. To them, that's what like negotiations are. So Putin, when they say Putin won't accept negotiations, they mean he won't unconditionally surrender, abandon everything in Ukraine, and just I don't know, just basically give up, unconditionally surrender and give up the war. Is what they mean by going to the negotiating table. As best as I can determine, I think that is what is meant by negotiations. Because when they had negotiations, Russia presented what their terms were. They were ignored. Now, yeah, Constantine says they think they're the coalition dictating terms to Saddam in 91. Yeah, they think that they're in the driver's seat, that Russia has to just do what they tell them to do, and Russia's just not going to at this point in time. They have no reason to do what the U.S. tells them to do. None. Now, with regards to Ukraine, I get it. They can't, to a certain extent, they just can't accept it. The Russian demands on paper, I don't think, are that unreasonable, but they're more than Ukraine can really accept at this point in time. So that's just, it's a bit of a non-starter with regards to that. Transnistria is so close. It's pretty close to being part next to the ocean now that I look at it. So, like, rather than starting to negotiate with Putin and seeing if they can maybe get some sort of deal, like, I don't know what that would look like. If that would be, well, maybe they can convince him to only take the parts of the 4 regions that he currently has. Maybe they can convince him to not take any more. Like, maybe they can come up with something. But they won't. And now at this point in time, there's just no real reason for Russia to negotiate. They're winning the war. They're going to win on the battlefront. They're basically just going to dictate terms. Whenever they get to Kiev, whenever the Ukrainian army finally collapses, they'll just be able to basically dictate whatever terms that they want. Now, does this mean that there will not be huge issues going forward in actually enforcing them? Yeah, there will. There'll be a whole bunch of additional problems, but those are kind of things for another day. I don't think Ukraine is willing to negotiate, and the U.S. won't. So, once again, it's just going to be resolved on this on the battlefield. So that's pretty much all I had to cover. Did anybody have anything that they think I missed? Or is there anything people wanted to ask me or stuff like that? let me know, and I'll just stay around for a couple minutes. So yeah, I'm 100% convinced that the Epstein thing is that um, Epstein was a Mossad agent who was honeypotting uh, like important Americans so that they could have they could have blackmail on them and get them to support Israel. I'm pretty sure that that's what it is. It's to me, it's the only thing that makes any kind of sense as to why Trump would be defending Epstein. Um, is because it has something to do with Israel. That's like the only thing that gets this kind of psychotic reaction in American politics is something to do with Israel. So I don't even know if I've heard some people think Trump was involved with Epstein. Some people say he wasn't. Some people say, well, they just happened to be at the same parties. Some people say, well, no, it was more than that. I don't really know, but it does look really bad. It does look really, really bad. Now, I'd like to ask Chad a question, and this is something I've been trying to figure out. Um, what is what would be the motive? So Trump's claim is that the Democrats invented Epstein, that Jeffrey Epstein was a hoax, and that the hoax was created by the Democrats. So, what purpose would they do that for? Let's assume that Trump is telling the truth. Let's assume that the Democrats invented Epstein as a hoax. What would be the benefit to that? Like, can anybody tell me? I'm struggling here. Like, the Democrats would have Epstein, although Bill Clinton was like a major client, in order to do what? Like, I don't know. Like, what is the motivation? I'm not being I'm not trying to be facetious here. I'm not even trying to make fun of it. I literally cannot think of a reason why they would come up with it. Like, there is no, like, I don't know, I can't think of a single reason. Like, it doesn't even fucking make any sense. Like, and you, fortunately, most people are not buying this, but I have seen MAGA people who are like, oh yeah, this is Epstein is the deep state. The deep state invented Epstein to screw with Trump. And I'm like, but Epstein if anyone's the deep state, it's Epstein. Like, all the people who ran the deep state were on his island fucking kids. So, and the thing I still don't get is why he came up, like, this is what he came up with. This dog ate my homework, like, the least plausible thing. As I've said, if he had have just said, oh, the Biden Justice Department lost or destroyed the files, I would have probably believed that, to be honest. That sounds like a plausible excuse. Saying that it wasn't properly investigated would have been a plausible excuse. Just letting the issue die. Saying that there wasn't as much as he thought. Like, there's a lot of stuff that he could have said. And instead he came up with the single most retarded, like, explanation. Like, even saying Russia was behind it would make more sense than that. If they said Russia was... And once again, let's go back and take a look at this. Okay, so this was it. We'll maybe just finish off. Let's look at this again. Their new scam is what we will forever call. This was back from a week or two ago. This was from mid-July. I just want people to realize, like, I'm not making this up. This is what Trump put on Truth Social. The new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this bullshit, hook, line, and sinker. This is where he told the people who care about Epstein to stop supporting him. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will, even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years. Okay, so go on. I have more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history. And all these people want to talk about with strong prodding by the fake news and the success-starved Dems is the Jeffrey and Epstein hoax. Let these weaklings continue to go forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking, success, because I don't want your support anymore. Thank you for attention to this matter. Make America great again. So, like, it's a hoax that the Democrats came up with. And he said this in other places, too. And it's just, I don't know. It's weird. It's just, I don't know. So that's about, let me just see here. Later Gator asks when Wexit's happening. I don't know. I go back and forth on whether it's even possible. I don't know. Is BC swinging to the right? Well, let me see here. Next BC election. It's quite likely that they'll have one before time runs out, just because of how close it is. Doesn't this guy kind of look like an off-brand Justo? I don't know. Maybe it's just the expression. I mean, no, it's like a tie at the moment between the Conservatives and NDP. So, yeah. What is this? We have one BC now and center BC. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Tara Armstrong, I wonder, maybe she's a voice actress. Financial Times was reporting that Trump said he was seeing MAGA turn on Israel. I mean, yeah. Well, maybe talk about Israel some other time. But that's all I really want to talk about today. Like I said, I will be off next week. There'll probably be some vlogs. There'll definitely be some posts and stuff like that. I hope everybody has a great first week of August and lots more exciting. Oh yeah, before I go, the Young video is coming. I'm working on it. I'm over half done. There's just a lot of stuff to cover, and it's going to be a long one.